The storm came without warning, like a living monster rising from the frozen ground. One moment the sky above planet Pharaoh's 9 was clear, calm, and silent. The next moment, a wall of white rolled over the land, covering everything with deadly cold. The alien soldiers had trained for harsh weather. They had survived ice planets, cold moons, and frozen war zones. But this storm was different. This storm felt angry. It felt alive. Commander Sarek was the first to understand something was wrong. His armor sensors began screaming, temperature dropping. Dropping. Too fast to measure, his breath froze inside his helmet. The air turned into sharp needles. He shouted at his team to activate full thermal protection. But when he looked around, he saw fear in every pair of alien eyes. Their suits were shaking, their limbs turning stiff, their voices cracking as frost formed across their helmets. Every alien felt the cold cutting through their armor like knives. The storm hammered them with freezing winds strong enough to tear apart metal. Snow rose in tall spirals that looked almost like ghostly shapes circling them. The whole world disappeared into white, but in the center of the chaos stood one figure who did not move. He did not panic. He did not run for shelter. He did not even raise his hands against the cold. It was the human. Grant Hawley stood with snow building on his shoulders, his face calm, his eyes steady. His breath slow and controlled. His clothes were light. Far too light for this storm, yet he did not look uncomfortable at all. He looked like a man taking the quiet walk in gentle winter air. The alien stared at him through the blizzard. Confused, terrified, unable to understand how he was still alive. Frost began spreading across their armor, locking joints, shutting down systems. Sarek's helmet cracked. Another soldier fell to his knees. A third screamed as ice crawled across his arms. Their suits were dying piece by piece, but Grant remained untouched. Snow whipped across his face, iced wind crashed into him. Yet he stood firm in the storm, even leaning forward slightly as if listening to something hidden deep inside the blizzard. It was impossible. No creature could stand in temperatures like this. No species could handle such cold without dying in seconds. But the human was not dying. The human was comfortable. The storm grew worse. The wind howled like something alive. A giant beast breathing over the land. The aliens felt the ground shake beneath their boots. Some heard low rumbling noises under the snow, like something massive was moving below them. Sarek tried to shout orders, but his voice froze in the air. Every alien collapsed or crouched down, trying to shield themselves from the storm that felt like it wanted to break them apart. Then something strange happened. Grant lifted his head slowly, as if he sensed something the others could not. He narrowed his eyes and stepped forward into the blizzard. The aliens watched in fear, thinking he had lost his mind. But Grant was not walking blindly. He was following something. The storm roared louder. Like it was reacting to his movement, the snow around him swirled in thick circles, creating a wide path that formed naturally at his feet. Aliens could barely lift their arms. But the human walked through the killing cold like it was nothing. His steps were slow but steady, almost peaceful. Like he had walked in storms far worse than this. Grant. Sarek tried to shout, but all that came out was a broken whisper. The human did not look back. He kept moving forward, deeper and deeper into the blizzard. His body did not shake, his skin did not freeze, and his breath did not slow down. It was like the storm did not even see him as a living being. A shadow moved inside the swirling snow. Something big, something heavy, something not human. Sarek saw it for a second, a tall shape, long claws, glowing eyes. Then the wind swallowed the shape again. The aliens froze in fear, but Grant kept walking toward it, as if he had been waiting for this moment. For the first time, Sarek realized something terrifying. The blizzard was not the real danger. The real danger was what the human had sensed inside it. Grant stopped walking. He stood in the deepest part of the storm. The wind pushed against him, but he did not move. His eyes locked on the darkness inside the white wall of snow. And then, slowly, something stepped out. The aliens held their breath. The storm roared like a beast taking its first breath. And the human whispered something they could not hear, whatever was coming. It was not natural, and the fact that Grant did not fear, it made the aliens even more afraid. The blizzard should have killed everyone. But it did not kill the human, it awakened him. And now something inside the storm was awakening too. Long before the deadly storm hit Pharaoh's 9, the alien squad met Grant Hawley in a quiet hangar aboard their transport ship. At first glance, he looked painfully ordinary. A tall human with calm eyes, rough hands, and a simple jacket that he wore even inside the freezing ship. He did not talk much, he did not brag, he did not show off. He simply nodded at everyone and went back to checking equipment like a worker who had done this 1,000 times. But something about him felt strange even then. The aliens noticed small details. Grant never touched the heating vents, never used thermal gloves, and never complained about cold. Even in the ship's lower decks, where temperatures dropped dangerously low, he walked around like it was a warm spring day. Some aliens thought humans were just weird mammals. Some thought he was hiding something. But nobody imagined the truth. The squad's youngest member, Raltek, tried to make friends. He handed Grant a steaming cup of hot gel, something aliens drank to stay warm on cold missions. Grant simply smiled and said, "No need." "Thank you," Raltek insisted, almost shoving it into his hands. Grant took a small sip only to avoid hurting feelings. But his expression did not change at all. The gel was almost boiling hot. Yet Grant drank it calmly. Raltek's eyes widened. His species could barely hold a cup that hot without gloves. Grant didn't even blink. Whispers started. Is he enhanced? Is he sick? Is something wrong with his nerves? Or the strangest one, does he not feel temperature at all? Commander Sarek studied him from a distance. The human was quiet but alert. His movements were slow but confident. He reacted to sounds before others did. He sensed dangers before anyone else noticed. He always stood with his back to a wall. Like a soldier who never forgot old lessons, there was something in his eyes too. A heaviness, a memory of places colder, harder, and crueler than anything in the galaxy, but no one asked. Because no one wanted to know the answer during the briefing. The squad learned about Pharaoh's 9, a frozen planet filled with ancient tunnels and dangerous storms. The aliens groaned, complaining about the cold. Grant said nothing. He only tightened his boots and checked his gear. He didn't even pick up a thermal suit. Sarek stopped him. "You forgot your cold armor," Sarek said firmly. Grant shook his head. "I won't need it." The room went silent. Aliens looked at each other in shock. Even Sarek frowned, thinking Grant was joking. But the human's calm face told him otherwise. Grant walked out without taking the suit that night. The temperature on the ship dropped due to a malfunction. The alien soldiers shivered, wrapped themselves in blankets, and complained loudly. They found Grant asleep in a storage bay, wearing a thin shirt, resting peacefully, in a place colder than the outside decks. His breath looked normal. His skin showed no signs of freezing. He slept like a man lying in warm, soft sand. Sarek stood over him for a long time, watching him breathe. "This is not natural," he whispered. Still, nobody dared to question him directly. Grant never harmed anyone, never acted proud, never behaved like someone trying to impress. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had survived things others could not imagine. His silence made everyone uneasy, not in a bad way, more like standing beside a mountain that could crush you, but chooses not to. When the squad landed on Pharaoh's 9, the cold hit them instantly. They activated heaters, suit warmers, and thermal packs within seconds. Grant simply inhaled deeply, closed his eyes, and smiled slightly. "Feels familiar," he said softly. The aliens stared at him in disbelief. Their teeth were already shaking. Grant stood relaxed, like he was walking through a memory instead of a hostile planet. Raltek whispered to Sarek, "Commander, humans are not supposed to enjoy this." Sarek did not answer, because he did not know what Grant was anymore. During their first exploration on Pharaoh's 9, creatures followed them from a distance. Their footsteps echoed under the ice. Some tunnels felt warmer, some colder, some alive. But Grant always seemed to know where to step, where to look, where something dangerous waited. Aliens depended on his instincts without even realizing it. He guided them like someone who had survived countless missions on worlds far worse. Every time a cold gust hit them, the squad groaned and stumbled. Grant barely flinched. Every time ice cracked under their feet, the aliens jumped. Grant calmly pointed a better path. Every time the team panicked, Grant simply breathed and moved forward like the cold could not touch him. By the third day, the aliens stopped whispering questions like, "What is he?" and started whispering a different question: "How many storms has he survived?" Because the truth was becoming clear. Grant Hale's past was not normal. His body was not normal. His resistance to cold was not luck or training. It was a warning. They just didn't understand it yet. But the storm, the one waiting in the darkness, that storm understood him, and when it finally arrived, it would reveal the human's past in the most terrifying way imaginable. The deeper the squad moved into Pharaoh's 9, the stronger the silence became. It was not normal silence, not the peaceful kind found on quiet planets. This silence felt heavy, like something old was listening to them from beneath the ice. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath when the team walked. Every footstep echoed too loud, too sharp, as if the planet was warning them that they did not belong here. The aliens had studied Pharaoh's 9 before landing. They expected strong storms, unstable temperatures, and jagged ice valleys. But what they did not expect were the footprints. On their second morning, Raltek discovered a set of tracks pressed deep into the frozen ground. The footprints were massive long claws, wide pads, and a stride so heavy that each step cracked the ice layers below. Sarek crouched beside them, tracing the edges with his hand. "These are fresh," he whispered. "Very fresh." The squad felt the air grow colder. Grant Hale stood a few steps away, eyes fixed on the distant hills. He said nothing. But Sarek noticed the human tense. His shoulders tightened, his jaw clenched, his breath slowed. It was the same reaction dogs had when they sensed predators nearby. Sarek had seen humans act this way in old military footage. Calm fear, controlled instincts, the kind that only comes from years of surviving danger. "What do you think, Grant?" Sarek finally asked. The human did not turn around. "We are not alone," he said quietly, "and whatever those prints belong to, it watches from the storm." The aliens felt a shiver that had nothing to do with cold. That day, while exploring a frozen canyon, they found something even stranger: a tunnel entrance carved into the ice, so smooth it looked polished. Sarek scanned it, but the readings made no sense. The temperature inside the tunnel was warmer than the outside air, but the ice around it was thick and ancient, as if something underground was heating the planet from the inside. Raltek crouched, touching the edge. "Why is it warm here?" he whispered. Grant's eyes narrowed. "Because something is alive down there." No one wanted to enter the tunnel, but Sarek ordered a quick scan. Before they could start, a deep rumble shook the ground. Snow fell from the cliffs above them. Cracks raced across the ice. The aliens panicked, scrambling for stable ground. The tunnel vibrated as if something huge moved inside it. Then the sound came, a deep, low growl, so powerful that it echoed through their bones. It was not mechanical, not natural, not anything they had ever heard before. Even Sarek felt fear run up his spine. Grant stepped forward slowly, his expression unreadable. He stared into the dark opening, as if trying to see through the shadows. Something inside growled again, louder this time, followed by the sound of claws scraping ice. Raltek pulled Grant's sleeve in panic. "We can't stay here. We need to leave." Grant whispered, "It is not hunting us yet." Yet the squad retreated quickly, their legs shaking, their hearts racing, but Grant walked away calmly, like someone who had faced creatures like this before. Sarek watched him closely every time the temperature dropped. Grant became more alert, but never afraid. It was as if the cold gave him strength while draining everyone else. Later, during camp setup, the aliens argued over what they saw. Some said the tunnel creature was a myth. Others said it was an ancient guardian of the planet. Raltek insisted it was simply an animal. "Big animals live on cold planets," he said with a shaky laugh. "Maybe it eats ice," but Grant's answer silenced everyone. "No animal makes tunnels like that," he said. "No creature controls the heat inside ice. No beast waits inside storms. This thing is old. Older than your species. Older than mine. Then what is it?" Sarek demanded. Grant stared into the storm outside their shelter. "A survivor," he said softly. "Just like humans." The aliens fell silent, confused and scared. They did not understand the meaning behind his words, not yet, that night. While the squad slept, Grant remained awake. Sitting at the edge of camp, his eyes stayed fixed on the snowy horizon, watching something only he could sense. The wind carried distant echoes, soft, rhythmic, almost like breathing. The storm was building again, thicker, heavier, faster than any natural storm should form. Inside the darkness of the swirling snow, a pair of glowing eyes opened. Then a second pair, then a third. They were watching him. They knew the human was different, and for some reason, they feared him. As the temperature dropped sharply, the creatures slipped back into the blizzard. Waiting, following, preparing, the aliens believed the storm was nature. But Grant knew better. It was not weather, it was a warning. And Pharaoh's 9 was not a planet, it was a battlefield hidden under ice. The storm coming toward them was not accidental. It was the beginning of something ancient, something that had been sleeping for centuries. And the human alone among them could feel it awakening. The storm returned on the 4th day, but this time it did not come like weather. It came like a hunter, slow, silent, and deliberate. The aliens woke to the sound of wind brushing against their shelter. A soft whispering noise that did not match any natural pattern. Sarek checked his scanners. His eyes widened. The storm was forming in a perfect circle around them, as if someone were building a cage out of ice and wind. "This is not normal," he muttered. Grant Hiley was already awake, sitting outside the shelter without fear. Snow on his shoulders, frost on his eyebrows. The storm winds pressed against him, but he did not move. He stared into the swirling white wall around the camp, like he was waiting for someone to step out of it. Raltek crawled out behind him, shivering hard. "Grant, why are you outside?" "You'll freeze." Grant didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the storm, his breath slow, calm, steady. The young alien felt a strange chill, not from the cold, but from the human stillness. It felt like watching a wild predator before it leaps. Sarek stumbled out next. Everyone inside. "Storm protection protocol now," he shouted, but when he looked at the horizon, his voice died. The storm wasn't just circling them. It was closing inch by inch, walls of snow twisting like giant frozen serpents. The temperature dropped faster than their suits could adjust. Armor alarms screamed, joints froze, systems flickered, and yet Grant stood untouched. He stepped forward, and the snow seemed to move aside for him, making a path in the storm. "What is happening?" Sarek asked, fear rising in his throat. Grant whispered, "They're hurting us." The alien stared at him, confused and terrified, but there was no time to argue. The storm wall suddenly slammed inward with explosive force. Knocking Raltek to the ground, Sarek grabbed him. But the cold burned through their gloves like acid. The wind roared, blasting them backward. The aliens collapsed one by one, their suits icing over. Turning stiff, cracking at the joints, the blizzard wasn't acting like nature. It was acting like a predator tightening its grip. Every gust of wind pushed them toward the ravine behind Campa Deep. Dark divide they had avoided since landing. Sarek understood the truth too late. The storm wasn't driving them away. It was forcing them toward something deeper, something waiting below. Get up! Grant shouted, not screaming in panic, but in command. His voice cut through the wind like a blade. The aliens tried to stand, but their legs were numb, their arms weak. The cold drained their strength as if the storm were drinking it from their bodies. Grant grabbed Raltek first, lifting him like he weighed nothing. He pushed him against the rock wall, shielding him from the wind with his own body. The human's breath fogged the air, but his skin did not freeze. His hands were warm, almost burning. "Stay close to me," Grant ordered. "Do not fall behind." He moved fast, dragging aliens from the ice, carrying two at a time. Sarek watched in disbelief. The human's movements were effortless, as if the storm's weight didn't touch him at all. Every blast of wind that knocked aliens off their feet barely pushed Grant back an inch. But something else was happening too, something only Grant seemed to understand. His eyes kept flicking toward the swirling storm, watching shapes move inside it, massive shapes, silent shapes. Their footsteps made the ice vibrate under their feet. The storm was not just a trap, it was camouflage. Raltek's voice trembled. "Grant, what's in there?" Grant didn't answer at first. He guided two more soldiers to shelter. His hands steady, his breathing even. Finally he said quietly, "They use storms the way humans use forests." A pause. "To hide." Suddenly, a loud crack ripped through the air. An ice pillar near them shattered as something huge brushed past it inside the storm. The aliens caught only a glimpse: long claws, thick fur, glowing blue eyes. The creature vanished back into the white wall like a ghost. Sarek's blood froze. "We need to escape. Now." Grant shook his head. "We can't run from them in the open." The storm howled louder. The creatures growled deeper. They were closing in, their shadows circling the team like wolves surrounding prey. "Then what do we do?" Raltek cried. Grant turned, eyes cold and sharp. "We go toward the center of the storm." Sarek grabbed his arm. "That's suicide." Grant's voice was steady. "It's not a storm, Commander. It's a barrier." He pointed toward the thickest part of the blizzard, where the wind moved strangely, bending around something invisible, something intelligent. "That's where they're hiding," Grant said. "If we don't face them now, they'll kill us one by one." The aliens stared at him in silence. The human stood tall, the storm swirling around him like it recognized him somehow, like it feared him. Sarek finally whispered, "You've seen storms like this before, haven't you?" Grant looked into the white wall, eyes distant. "Yes," he said. "And worse." He stepped forward, and the storm opened for him. The aliens had no choice. If they wanted to survive, they had to follow the human into the heart of the blizzard and face whatever ancient thing waited inside. The storm swallowed them the moment they followed Grant Halle into its heart. The aliens felt as if the wind had teeth, biting through their armor, scraping against their skin. Sarek tried to keep the squad together, but every step forward felt like walking through blades of ice. Raltek stumbled, nearly collapsing, but Grant caught him with one arm and pulled him up with effortless strength. "Stay close," Grant said calmly, even though the storm screamed around him like a living creature. "The blizzard cannot touch you if you stay near me." The aliens didn't understand what he meant, but they didn't question it either. They held onto him like frightened children clinging to a lantern in endless night. The closer they walked to Grant, the warmer the air felt, not warm like fire, but warm like safety. His body heat was stronger than the storm itself, pushing the cold back as if his blood carried something impossible. Sarek stared at the human, shocked. "How are you not frozen solid?" Grant's eyes stayed forward. "Earth trains us in cold, Commander. Humans live in places where winter tries to kill us every year. That is not enough to survive this," Sarek replied. His voice trembling, Grant finally turned. And Sarek felt a strange chill, not from the cold, but from the human's eyes. They were calm, almost emotionless. Eyes of someone who had seen death before and walked away from it. "There are places on Earth," Grant said softly, "where storms feel like they want to eat the sky, where the air hurts. Where the cold is a predator," Raltek whispered. "But no creature survives storms like this." Grant looked at him. Humans did. The aliens fell silent, not knowing whether to be amazed or afraid. They continued forward, and the storm continued to twist around them like a giant whirlpool, passing them but never touching Grant. It was as if the blizzard was alive and recognizing him. Then the ground trembled. A loud cracking noise tore through the air. Ice behind them split open, revealing shadows moving inside the storm. The creatures following them were no longer hiding. Their growls grew louder, deep, ancient, filled with hunger. Raltek panicked. "They're coming." Grant didn't turn around. "They won't attack from behind, not yet." "How do you know?" Sarek asked. "Because they are waiting for the cold to finish you," Grant replied. "They don't waste energy on prey the storm can kill for them." The aliens shivered, realizing they were not battling weather. They were trapped inside nature that obeyed the beasts hunting them. The deeper they walked, the stranger the storm became. Snow no longer fell downward, it rose upward, spiraling like it was being pulled into the sky. The wind was not random, it twisted in patterns, forming shapes that looked almost like symbols, old symbols, alien symbols. And then they entered the inner circle of the blizzard. The storm suddenly fell silent. The temperature in the center was strangely warm, almost comfortable. A huge dome of swirling snow surrounded them like a frozen wall, trapping them inside a ring of white. The aliens gasped at the sight, but Grant did not react at all. He had seen this before. Raltek touched the snow wall, and it hissed, burning his glove. "This isn't just ice," he said. "It's alive." "No," Grant replied quietly. "It's controlled." "Controlled by what?" The answer came in the form of a deep roar that shook the entire dome. The snow walls pulsed, as if something enormous pressed against them from the outside. The aliens stepped back, trembling, hoping it would go away. But it didn't. It came closer. The snow peeled away, revealing a massive shape fur like frozen stone. Claws longer than swords, glowing blue eyes that burned under layers of ice. The creature stepped forward, its breath colder than vacuum. Its growl rumbled through every bone in their bodies. Raltek collapsed. Sarek froze in terror. But Grant stepped forward. The creature stared at him, tilting its massive head, confused. The human should have been dead by now, frozen like the others. Yet Grant's body radiated heat stronger than anything it had ever sensed from prey. The creature growled, but Grant did not back away. He lifted his hand slowly, palm open. The storm around them paused, as if holding its breath. Sarek whispered shakily, "Grant, don't. You'll get killed." Grant shook his head. "No," he whispered back. "It won't attack me." "How do you know?" Raltek cried. Grant's voice was calm, steady, terrifyingly sure. "Because the storm does not recognize you." A pause. "But it recognizes me." The creature stepped closer, lowering its massive head until its icy breath washed over Grant. The aliens watched in horror as frost formed on the ground, but not on him. The beast sniffed him, growled softly, almost respectfully. Sarek could not believe what he was seeing. "Grant, what are you?" he whispered. Grant's eyes stayed locked on the deadly creature. "I'm human," he said quietly, "and humans were shaped by winters that tried to kill us. The creature let out another roar, but this time, it did not roar at Grant, it roared at the aliens behind him. And Grant finally understood. The storm was not hunting him. It was choosing him, and the creatures were not enemies. Not yet, they were testing him. And he had passed the first test, but the next test would decide who survives and who dies. The creature stood face to face with Grant Holly, its breath rolling out in thick clouds of freezing mist. Its glowing blue eyes locked onto the human, like it was trying to solve a puzzle older than the planet itself. Sarek and the squad remained frozen behind Grant, terrified, their suits cracking under the cold. But what terrified them more was this simple fact: the creature feared the storm. The storm obeyed the creature. And the creature respected the human. Another roar rippled across the snow dome, and the ground vibrated hard enough to knock Raltek onto his knees. Sarek grabbed him, pulling him close. "Stay behind Grant," he shouted, but his voice cracked with fear. The creature let out a second roar, and suddenly the snow walls pulsed like a heartbeat slow. Deep, alive. Grant lifted his chin slightly. "More are coming," he whispered. The aliens stared wide-eyed as the storm around them split open, revealing several enormous shapes moving through the blizzard. Their silhouettes were huge, bigger than war tanks, heavier than starship engines, each glowing with faint blue light like lanterns walking inside a nightmare. Raltek's teeth chattered in fear. "Grant, how many of them?" Grant didn't blink. "Too many for you to count, one by one." The ice creatures emerged from the wall of snow, their fur thick like frozen mountains, their claws coated with layers of solid ice, their eyes glowing like cold fire. The biggest among them moved forward, its steps causing cracks across the ground. It stood beside the first creature, towering like a frozen god. Its gaze fell directly onto Grant. The aliens trembled, expecting the human to run or at least step back, but Grant didn't move an inch. The giant creature lowered its head and inhaled deeply, smelling him. A low rumble echoed through its chest, almost like recognition. Sarek felt chills run through him. Not from cold, but from something darker. "Why? Why does it look at you like that?" he whispered. Grant spoke softly. "Because it knows what I am." Raltek shook his head. "You're human. Just human, right?" Grant did not answer. Instead, the creature turned away from him and looked at the aliens. Its eyes narrowed, its cold breath lowering the temperature instantly. Their suits screamed warnings, alarms flashed red. Some soldiers collapsed, unable to move. The cold was so intense it felt like knives slicing through their organs. Sarek panicked. "We're going to die." Grant stepped in front of them, raising his hand. "Stop," he said, not loudly, but with a tone that carried through the storm like a command the planet itself obeyed. The creatures froze, the storm paused, even the wind stopped moving, like the entire blizzard was holding its breath. The largest creature lowered itself slightly, almost like a bow. Sarek gasped. It listens to you. How?" Grant inhaled deeply, eyes distant, lost in memories only he understood. "This storm. They're home. They're cold. None of it scares me," he said quietly. "I've survived winters that kill humans in minutes, temperatures that turn steel brittle, winds that rip apart buildings." He nodded toward the creatures. "They sense that my body fights the cold the same way theirs does. They understand survival. Not species." The alien squad stared in shock. To the creatures, Grant was not prey, not an outsider, not an intruder. He was something else entirely, a survivor equal to them. But the moment of calm shattered instantly when a piercing howl echoed across the ice dome. It was higher pitched, sharper, full of hunger. The creatures around them stiffened, ears lifting, bodies tensing. They looked toward the southern wall of snow where the storm grew darker, heavier, more violent. Grant stepped forward, his expression changing for the first time since they landed. His eyes hardened. His jaw tightened. "It's waking up," he said quietly. Raltek swallowed. "What is waking up?" Grant pointed at the darkness swirling inside the storm. Something older. Something the creatures fear. The alien soldiers felt the cold dig deeper into their bones. As if something inside the storm was reaching for their heat. Pulling it away, Sarek forced himself to speak. "Grant, what do we do?" Grant looked at the creatures around them, massive beasts of ice and storm, each trembling slightly at the distant roar, echoing through the wind. "We follow them," he said. "If the storm grows darker, it means a greater predator is coming. But where are they going?" Raltek asked. Grant turned toward the massive beasts, who now faced the southern storm with tension in their bodies. "They're going to defend their territory," Grant said. "But they know they can't win alone." Sarek's eyes widened. "You mean they want your help?" Grant nodded once, slowly. "They've accepted me," he said quietly. "But they don't trust any of you," the creatures growled again. Their giant bodies circling the humans like living fortresses, preparing for something beyond comprehension. The storm winds thickened, ripping chunks of ice from the ground. The air grew so cold the aliens could barely breathe, yet Grant stood tall, steady, ready. Raltek stared at him with fear and awe. "Grant, are we fighting with them?" Grant stared into the storm where the second roar echoed deeper. "Older, monstrous. No," he answered calmly. "We're fighting what even they are afraid of." The snow dome began to shake. The ice creatures braced themselves, and Grant stepped forward. The storm wasn't just waking up. It was becoming angry, and the true enemy was finally coming out of the dark. The second roar rolled across the frozen plains like thunder tearing the sky apart. The snow dome shook violently, cracks racing across the ice beneath the aliens' feet. Even the massive ice creatures, towering beasts of cold and storm, stepped back in fear. Their claws dug deep into the ground, their fur bristling as if a nightmare had crawled out of the planet's core. Raltek clung to Sarek, shaking uncontrollably. What is that?" Grant Hawley did not blink. His breath came out slow and steady, his eyes fixed on the wall of swirling darkness on the far edge of the storm. The ice creatures shifted into a defensive circle around Grant and the aliens, their glowing blue eyes narrowing, muscles tense. Something ancient was approaching, something even they feared. Sarek's suit whined in panic. "Grant, we're leaving. We cannot fight this." Grant shook his head once. "There's nowhere to run." The storm roared again. The dome shattered like glass, and the true monster stepped out. A creature bigger than any living thing the squad had ever seen. It crawled forward on limbs thick as towers, its entire body made of living ice. Its chest glowed red-hot beneath frozen cracks like molten fury trapped under a glacier. Its eyes burned brighter than fire trapped inside snow. The smaller ice creatures trembled, lowering their heads. They were predators, but this was their king. Raltek gasped. "The Alpha." Grant stepped forward, placing himself between the alien squad and the massive Alpha. The ground shook with every breath the creature took, wind spiraling around it, forming sharp whirlwinds that cut the air like blades. Sarek and the squad dropped to the ground, unable to stay standing under the pressure, but Grant remained standing. Not pushed back, not bending, not afraid. The Alpha leaned down, its massive head lowering until its glowing eyes stared directly into Grant's face. Its cold breath washed over him, freezing the air around them. Frost spread. Rocks cracked, yet Grant's skin did not freeze. The Alpha growled so deep the snow vibrated under their feet. It was communicating. Grant answered with a slow breath. "I know," he whispered. "We are not your enemies." Sarek watched in shock. How does he know what it's saying? Grant didn't look back, because survival speaks one language. The Alpha's enormous claw slammed into the ground beside him. missing him by inches, a warning, a test. The ice creatures behind roared anxiously, some stepping forward to defend Grant. But he raised a hand calmly. "Stay," he said, and they obeyed. The Alpha inhaled deeply again, lowering its giant head until its nose almost touched Grant's chest. Its eyes narrowed, reading his heat, reading his heartbeat, reading the strange resilience inside his body. Finally, it let out a sound like cracking mountains. Acknowledgement. Grant nodded. "We're here to help," the Alpha roared, this time beckoning its pack, calling them into formation. The smaller ice creatures circled around Grant again, not to attack him, but to protect him. Sarek finally understood, his voice trembling. They chose him. As one of their own, Grant turned to the squad. "Move with us, stay together." The Alpha began marching. And the ice creatures moved like an army carved from glaciers. Grant walked at the center, guiding the aliens through the storm as ancient beasts guarded their every step. The blizzard that once hunted them now obeyed their formation, bending around Grant like he was carved from the cold itself. Hours later, they reached the extraction ridge where the rescue ship hovered anxiously. When the pilot saw a human guiding a herd of ancient ice monsters across the blizzard, he almost fainted. The aliens rushed aboard the ship, collapsing from exhaustion, but Grant stepped outside the hatch. Looking back at the Alpha, it lowered its massive head. Grant placed a hand gently on its frozen fur, a sign of respect between two survivors born from different worlds. The Alpha roared once, the sound echoing through the galaxy like a warning. Humans are not prey. Humans are not weak. Humans are storms given flesh. The rescue ship lifted off, leaving the creatures to fade back into the blizzard. Sarek slumped into a seat, staring at Grant with wide eyes. You're not just a man," he whispered. "You're something the galaxy has never seen before." Grant finally smiled calm. "Quiet, humble. I'm human," he said softly. "That's enough." Word spread fast. Mission logs leaked. Footage of Grant walking through the storm went viral across thousands of worlds. The galaxy learned the truth. Humans did not fear the cold. The cold feared them, and that day, on a frozen world far from Earth, the legend of the human who walked through the blizzard like nothing became the story the galaxy would never forget.